Yeah. It's Friday. I know that means an off weekend for most people. But not me, damn it. I got to work through the weekend, but it's all right. It's all right because I got the NBA to talk about. I got Big Perk in the house with me. Kimberly Martin is coming in here with me as well to join Molly to try to gang up on me. It ain't gonna work. That's why they tried to soften me up by starting the show off with Big Perk. Like I'm supposed to be intimidated. Well, guess what? I'm not. And you know why? Because I suspect that come Monday or Tuesday, I'm actually gonna be in warmer weather than Big Perk himself. I'm just saying. First takes in the house. Let's go.
Good day. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into First Take on this Feel Good Friday.
How you doing?
I see you repping the HBCUs.
Always.
I like it.
Always.
Chris Paul sent you that, right?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. I mean, I had it made. He's the one that he sent me to where I needed to go get it made at and all that stuff. By the way, the hairdo, nice.
It's good?
Nice.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying?
I slept in the city last night,
All right.
so I'm not going to be cranky today because I got a lot of extra sleep. Because there's supposed to be a snowstorm in Perk. It's only rain. That's how it always goes, right? Whenever you think there's going to be, then it doesn't happen. And the opposite.
Here's what I'm going to say. What? Meteorologists make me look like a prophet because they're usually wrong. Yeah. I just want to say that.
You have an obsession with weather.
You know what I'm saying?
I know it's bad
I just want to say
when my sister, who rarely watches, is like, Stephen A. really likes the warm weather, right?
First of all, that is a lie. Don't lie to the American public. Your sister watches us all the time.
She's at work.
She still watches us. She's got the smartphone. She's watching us because her sister is on there, and she knows who her sister works with. You know what I'm saying? That's why she's watching.
That's
why she's watching. There we go.
Okay, let's go. Hey, Perk. Guys, we are just over 6 weeks away from the NBA playoffs, and it's a new dawn, and it's a new day. The Joel Embiid and James Harden era is expected to begin tonight. Championship dreams. Philly is in Minnesota. Here's Doc Rivers on Harden.
You bring an offensive guy that has a ball in his hand, and so guys have to figure out where to stand, where to be, where to pick, where he likes picks, when he's off the ball, how he likes coming to the ball. There's a lot to learn offensively, and in a lot of ways, he'll be him and Tyrese, they'll be your primary ball handlers. And so it's just going to take a little bit.
Let me just say one thing really quickly. This was probably the greatest NFL playoffs we've had in some time, right? When you say they were unreal, can I get you to focus, please?
Yes, I am.
Okay, stop texting. Am I correct?
I'm very focused.
Am I correct?
Always focused,
right? The NFL playoffs were unreal. I am so excited for these NBA playoffs. I think they have an opportunity to surpass that. So with that being said, Stephen A., what is at stake for Harden in Philly now that we're about 6 weeks away from the play-in tournament?
Well, before I answer that question, let me say this. At the start of the season, you will recall, Molly and Perk, that I was on the record saying this had the potential to be the greatest NBA season ever because you saw the multitude of championship contenders. The only thing that has tarnished it is the unavailability of players. Well, imagine for a second if Ben Simmons had played. Imagine for a second if there was no vaccine mandate that kept Kyrie Irving out of home games and out of the first half of the season entirely. Imagine if Kawhi Leonard were not hurt. Imagine if Kevin Durant hadn't missed the games. Imagine if AD and LeBron James hadn't spent time on the injured list themselves, or at least out due to injury and stuff like that. Just imagine if all of those things had not occurred because we didn't anticipate that they would. And guess what? We'd have an even better season, and the season has already been exceptional as far as I'm concerned. With that being said, let me state this. I think that James Harden's legacy is on the line. And I don't mean that, Perk, as it pertains to specifically this season. But in Philadelphia, James Harden had better damn well help this team get to an NBA Finals, or he will forever be scarred. Because when you consider the greatness of a James Harden, the fact that this brother went 8 straight years averaging no less than 25.5 points per game, that he won 4 or 5 straight years averaging no less than 29 a game, that the brother is a former league MVP that spent 3 consecutive years averaging over 30, 30.4, 36.1, 34.3 during a stretch in Houston, considering his marksmanship, his ability to get to the basket, his just magistry in drawing fouls and things of that nature, being compared as one of the greatest offensive players to have ever played the game of basketball, in line with Kevin Durant, with the Michael Jordans of the world and others. Nobody's saying better, but they were talking about him being in that category as an offensive player. To now go to Philadelphia after forcing your way out of Houston, then Brooklyn, and to have Joel Embiid as your teammate, there is no question, and considering what Daryl Morey gave up to get you, there is no question we take all of that into consideration, along with the overall greatness that we know James Harden to have, particularly with him being in Brooklyn last year and reverting to a true point guard where he's dancing on folks and creating shots for other people and averaging damn near a triple-double and being a top 2 candidate for league MVP honors before he messed up his hamstring later on in the regular season last year. All of those things taken into consideration. For him to go to the team that AI once guided to the NBA Finals with the likes of Eric Snow or Tyrone Hill or Dikembe Mutombo or Aaron McKee or George Lynch and guys like that, for you to be there with Joel Embiid and nothing less than an appearance in the NBA Finals will do.
Well, first of all, Stephen A., I like your jacket. Let me say that. Second of all, let me correct you and Molly for something at the start of the show. The playoffs don't start in 2 months. The playoffs started last night. Because of the play-in tournament, the playoffs are this is the playoffs right now. That's why we're going to see playoff-type basketball, for the simple fact that teams are going to be fighting to get out of the play-in tournament, and teams are going to be competing to get into the play-in tournament. So the playoffs has, in my opinion, has officially started. Okay, that's the first thing. But see, Stephen A., here's the problem that I have, and me and you always disagree when it comes down to finals appearances and championships, right? Championships and finals appearances helps a player legacy, right? It shouldn't tarnish or hurt a player legacy, for the simple fact that it's a team sport. It's a team sport. It's not an individual sport like boxing or golf or tennis. This is a team sport. And I say that to say this, because James Harden could go out there and play his behind off. James Harden could go out there and average 30 points, 15 assists, 8 rebounds, and I mean have a spectacular playoffs. But Tyrese Maxey might not show up. Danny Green might not be able to hit a shot. We can't blame that on James Harden. So this is the problem that I have. Yes, he forced his way out of Houston. Yes, he forced his way out of Brooklyn. Yes, he's trying to put himself in the best position to try to win the championship. But overall, I think if he goes and just be the best version of James Harden, that's all we can ask. Like, you can't be held accountable for what other guys on your team do. Now, if he goes there and he stinks it up, then that's another story. But because this is a team sport, it's hard for me to just put that on him. And when we talk about his legacy and what he's already accomplished individually, because in your eyes, if it had to come down to it, Robert Horry would probably be the best player in the world. Greatest player of all time, because he got so many championships.
Well, first of all, that's real slick on your part, but you know better than that. But good comeback, good try. Good try. I see you've been hanging out with Malika and Shanae, and they put you up to stuff like that, but it's okay. It doesn't work, though. Here's the reality of the situation, Big Perk. As we look, of course, we understand it's a team sport. But we're making the assumption that Joel Embiid is going to be Joel Embiid. We're looking at the roster that he's joining, and we're saying, okay, they can do what they've been doing, but you're the person that's supposed to take them over the hump. That's why you have the Philadelphia 76ers going to the finals, because you're making the assumption that everybody else is going to do what we expect them to do. So what you're looking for from James Harden is to do what we know he can do. That's number one. Number two, I'm not so sure you can sit up there and say he's put himself in the best position to win. I don't know if being in Philadelphia with Joel Embiid and Daryl Morey is better than being in Brooklyn with KD and Kyrie, assuming availability is not an issue come playoff time. I don't know if Philadelphia gives Philadelphia, if James Harden has a better chance of winning in Philadelphia than he does in Brooklyn because KD is that dude. When we think about Daryl Morey, Daryl Morey loves stars, and he deserves a lot of props and credit for what he's been able to accomplish in his career as an executive. But in the same breath, Sean Marks is nothing to sneeze at. I don't think that Sean Marks has done a bad job in Brooklyn in terms of the talent that he has assembled. And I actually think he won the trade against Daryl Morey and the Philadelphia 76ers because of all the requisite pieces he ended up accomplishing, which filled a hole everywhere you turn in terms of a defensive stopper, in terms of a playmaker, in terms of another shooter, in terms of an additional rebounder. He got all of that for the services of James Harden, who didn't want to be there. So when I look at it, I'm saying to myself, I get what you're coming from and all of that stuff, but if we're going to sit up there and elevate somebody's legacy because of what they accomplished, we can certainly put a stain on their legacy for what they failed to accomplish. Fair is fair.
Stephen A., he got out at the right time. And I wanted to address you because I saw your Stephen A's list yesterday
We gonna get
when you
into that.
put out your top
Suspect?
contenders. Yeah, I know, but at the end of the day, here's the thing. When you look at the Brooklyn Nets right now, they're in the play-in tournament.
Okay.
And their next 4 games are hard. Like, they could fall below 500. They could possibly miss the playoffs.
That's
So when
not
I
gonna
say
happen. Stop
James
that.
Harden
Stop
put
that.
himself...
You know better.
No,
You know
I mean,
better than that.
I'm just telling you, anything can happen in the play-in tournament. That's why it's there.
No,
Like,
I'm
when
talking
you
about
going
missing the
against a
playoffs.
team like...
missing the playoffs. I mean,
No,
you know KD ain't missing
I'm
the playoffs.
saying,
He'll
I'm
be
saying,
back soon.
I don't know. I don't know nothing. We haven't seen Ben Simmons play in months. And when you look at
No,
the
I'd say
teams that
KD.
are in the play-in, but listen to what I'm trying to tell you. In order for KD to get out of the play-in tournament, I think he's going to need the assistance of Ben Simmons.
The
If you
play-in?
look at the teams that are in, listen, if you look at the teams that are in the play-in tournament, they are dangerous. You look at the Atlanta Hawks, you look at the Toronto Raptors, and you look at the Charlotte Hornets. Stephen A., those teams have enough firepower that they could upset you. It's no guarantee that KD could have an off night. That's all it takes in the play-in tournament. So I'm saying the position that the Brooklyn Nets have put themselves in is no guarantee. I'm not saying that they're not going to make the playoffs. I'm saying it was a wise and smart move by James Harden because he saw what was going on. He saw what was transpiring. So at the end of the day, my point to you is this, and to the world, we have to stop when it comes down to championships and finals for as it defining or hurting a player legacy. If they performing at their highest peak, it's the same argument you and I have about LeBron James and Michael Jordan. I keep telling you that. Yeah, Michael Jordan went six out of 6, but he had help. Guys stepped up. LeBron James, he didn't went to the finals, did his part, but the others around him didn't step up when they needed him to.
That's fair. But the flip side to that is that when LeBron lost titles, he lost with D-Wade and Bosh. He lost with Kyrie and Kevin Love. That's number one. And number two, number two, here's my biggest point. The biggest point that I'm trying to make to you is this. Of course, we're going to pay attention to how James Harden plays. Of course, we know that he's a big-time player, and if other people don't show up, we can't hold him accountable for that. We're saying all things being equal, what we can't do is look at you and say you didn't do your job. That's all we mean by that. Let's not be literal. Everybody understands what we're saying here. If James Harden goes out there and averages 40 or 50 and gets no help from everybody else, we understand that's not on him. But what if he plays like people said he played in the past postseasons? That's a different matter. And that's all I'm saying.
All right, we're out. We're
No, I'm
rolling
with
here,
you on
guys.
that. We agree.
Thanks for listening, fellas. Don't sleep on DeMar DeRozan because the Lakers sure did. A man on a mission. He scored 37 on Thursday night, including 12 points in the fourth quarter and 5 points in the final minute to lead the Bulls to a 112-108 victory over the Atlanta Hawks. DeRozan has become the 7th player in NBA history to score 35 points in 8 straight games and the first since James Harden in 2019. Stephen A., you've been hot on DeRozan, but can he win MVP?
He most certainly can.
Okay.
I have DeMar DeRozan neck and neck with Joel Embiid at this particular moment in time. You're talking about 7 straight games of over 35 points. We're talking about the brother averaging over 30 scoring over 30 over the last 9 games. I'm looking at the standings here. Ladies and gentlemen, the Milwaukee Bucks are not in first place. The Brooklyn Nets are not in first place. The Philadelphia 76ers are not in first place. The Miami Heat are not in first place. The Eastern Conference participant, Atlanta Hawks, are not in first place. The team in first place in the Eastern Conference is the Chicago Bulls. And the team with the second best record, I mean, overall, they've got like the third best record, okay? Or the 4th best record, because Phoenix, Golden State, and Memphis, percentage-wise, has a better record. And then there's Chicago Bulls. They're the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. If the playoffs were to begin today, like KP says, the road to the finals must go through the United Center. I will remind everybody that this guy, DeMar DeRozan, is doing this in the house that MJ built. MJ, Michael Jordan, they got a statue outside of the United Center. That is where DeMar DeRozan is doing this. And by the way, he is doing stuff that even the great Derrick Rose, when he was healthy, because Derrick Rose was something special. I still love him. That's one of the reasons the Knicks are struggling right now, because they haven't had him. But the point is, Derrick Rose, when he was in Chicago and healthy, was on another level. And he still wasn't this. Zach LaVine, who's one of my favorite players, okay, I think he's a showstopper. A matter of fact, I would not have said what I said about that deplorable atrocity that was the slam dunk contest Saturday. I would have said nothing like that if Zach LaVine was in it, okay, because we know what that brother can do, all right? This brother is on the same team, and he's been dealing with some injuries. And DeMar DeRozan has held them up and then some. I want to announce to the basketball world, we look at Joel Embiid. I had him number 1. Jokic is not somebody to dismiss or whatever, but I am telling y'all right now, nobody, and I do mean no one, can be definitively placed ahead of DeMar DeRozan for league MVP honors. He is doing his thing.
Well, Stephen A., it just doubles down on your point when you said about this season being one of the best seasons of all time. It's because of the play of guys like Joel Embiid, DeMar DeRozan, Jokic, Ja Morant, all those guys who's mentioned in the MVP conversation. And I said this last month on NBA Today. Look, this is one of those seasons where it's going to go every 2 weeks. We're going to have a different MVP front runner because guys are balling like that. But when it comes to right now, today, DeMar DeRozan, I'm giving him the slight edge over Joel Embiid as the front runner for MVP. Look, he's been doing this. The Chicago Bulls, I believe, are on the 6-game winning streak. He's doing this. He's been doing this with a injured, if not available, Zach LaVine, no Lonzo Ball, no Alex Caruso. He has been balling. And guess what? He's doing it from the mid-range, and he's doing it at an efficient level. So efficient that I haven't seen a guy get buckets like this at an efficient level from the mid-range area since Michael Jordan. Name me a guy that got buckets like DeMar DeRozan is doing from the mid-range area, carrying the team and doing it at an efficient level since Michael Jordan. You can't. So with that being said is when you start to mention his name with Michael Jordan and doing things to Michael Jordan caliber, it's no doubt in my mind. And like you said before, they're number 1 in the Eastern Conference, and they have not been healthy. They're missing a lot of key pieces.
Caruso,
and this
Lonzo
dude said, come
Ball,
on, I got
the
you.
whole bit. Listen,
Yes.
the only question, I ain't gonna lie, the only question I got about the Chicago Bulls this year, right, is what you gonna get from the middle with Vucevic, because he's not a rough rider. He can shoot the basketball, but you need a rim protector and a defender in the post, and that's a question mark with Vucevic. But everything else that they have in place, I got to tell you, I'm pleased with what I'm seeing. Go ahead real quick, because I got something else to say, KP.
Yeah, but Stephen, and I just want to add, Don't forget they picked up Tristan Thompson, who had
That's
11 and 6 last night off the bench.
Time out. I did forget about that. I absolutely did forget about that. So I appreciate you because I totally forgot about that. You're absolutely right. Chicago's no joke. And when Caruso and Lonzo Ball come back, you're just going to buffer their defense. And here's the thing and I wanted to go back because I got something to say, KP, that's really not about, it's not about the debate. I just need to state this. We're talking about a guy in DeMar DeRozan that's been class personified, always shows up to work. You know, you don't hear anything about him. He doesn't do anything to bring attention to himself. Absolutely, positively nothing. He just goes out night in and night out and ball. He is shooting 52% from the field. He is shooting 35% from three-point range, which is the best three-point shooting he has ever done in his career. On top of all of that, here's the bigger point that I want to say about DeMar DeRozan, because this doesn't get said enough. DeMar DeRozan was in Toronto with Kyle Lowry, his best friend, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, they were winning 58, 59 games a season. They were best team in the Atlantic Division. They were a top 2 seed in the Eastern Conference year after year after year. His problem was that he couldn't beat LeBron in the postseason, okay? So what happens? Dwayne Casey, an outstanding coach, gets exiled from Toronto and is forced to have to accept the job in Detroit because who else was looking to hire him? And now Detroit's been struggling, and his record gets sullied when this man had proven to be an exceptional coach. He just couldn't figure out how to beat LeBron. He suffered.
Oh, you preach.
And you know who else suffered? DeMar DeRozan suffered. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I will remind y'all, when DeMar DeRozan was moved out of town and they acquired Kawhi Leonard, okay, who's to say that DeMar DeRozan wouldn't have won the chip? Because how did Kawhi Leonard win the chip? LeBron left the Eastern Conference, okay, and KD was hurt in the finals. So who's to say that DeMar DeRozan couldn't be sitting here with the same kind of stature that Kawhi Leonard has if DeMar DeRozan had been left alone in Toronto? And nobody brings that up. Because that's how big time he was and is, and he's proving it right now.
Leave it there. Let's keep it pushing. I want to dive deeper into the East, guys. It's loaded, and clearly it's up for grabs. So here's how the Eastern Conference standings are shaking out right now. Stephen A., you mentioned this earlier. After last night's win, the Bulls have a half-game lead on the Heat. After that, the Sixers and Bucks rounding out the top 4. Big Perk, who's the favorite to win the East?
Ooh. Molly, Stephen A., this is a tough one. If I had to pick right now, I'm giving a slight edge to the Philadelphia 76ers because I'm just thinking of the duo between Joel Embiid and James Harden. I'm thinking about that offensive firepower. I'm thinking about that high pick and roll. And when I said a duo since Kobe and Shaq, I'm talking about a guard and a big. I just can't just process how are you going to stop two guys that get buckets on the level that they get buckets? How are you going to stop two guys that are able to get to the free throw line the way that they're able to get to the free throw line? Think about this. Joel Embiid right now is leading the league in scoring. And he has to do it by shooting over double teams and triple teams and all those things to that nature. Now you add James Harden. James Harden is going to get Joel Embiid so many easy looks. I just don't know how a team is going to stop them offensively. And Philadelphia do have wing defenders. I mean, when you talk about Tybo, he's one of the best, if not the best wing defender in the NBA. Danny Green, he's a three-time champion. He knows how to elevate his game. And so when I look at this Philadelphia 76 roster, and I just look at those two in particular, I just don't know how can they be stopped offensively, and it's going to be hard to stop or game plan for them and make adjustments when the postseason comes. Well, the postseason is here, in my opinion, but I don't know how any team is going to make adjustments to stop those two, especially in the pick and roll.
I get where you're coming from. I'm thinking about how the 76ers depleted his bench a little bit, though. You know, you kept Thibault, you kept Maxey, you got Embiid, Tobias Harris, and now James Harden. But what do you have coming off the bench? I think that's a question mark. And I got to tell you, as I sit here today, I know they've lost 3 of their last 4, including the Philadelphia, where they gave up 42 and like 11 or 42 and 14 to Joel Embiid. But I can't jump off this Milwaukee bandwagon just yet. I'm just of the mindset that when I look at them and I look at the rest of the East, the question marks in Philly, the question marks in Brooklyn, Miami, still question mark, but I like them, and you know I'm rooting to be there in June. You know I have no problem with that.
I'm right there with you.
It's just that I get the impression watching Milwaukee, this is Milwaukee. We're the champions. We know we're the champions. And we're not going to show our full arsenal until it's time. It's similar to what we're looking at when we look at the Golden State Warriors. They're the number 2 seed in the West. And everybody's saying they're right where they want to be. Why? Because Steph, Clay, and Dre are 3-time champions, 5 straight trips to the NBA Finals. They kind of know what it takes. And I think when I look at Milwaukee right now, I don't blame you for saying Philadelphia. I would be inclined to say Brooklyn. If everybody were healthy and on the court together, Brooklyn would be my choice.
No.
But the one thing that I look at with the Milwaukee Bucks, which is why I put them at the top of the heap right now in the East, is because I look at Giannis and Drew and Middleton knowing how to play their roles. And that's what I look at, and I just say it's hard for me to get away from that chemistry, that cohesiveness with the chaos that exists within the Eastern Conference. I got to stay with Milwaukee, at least for now.
You know what's crazy? You know what's crazy, Stephen A, is that we actually could sit up here for hours and debate on why 5 teams in the Eastern Conference could really win the East. From the Chicago Bulls to Philly to Milwaukee to the Miami Heat. But I will point out this to you about the Milwaukee Bucks, and this is something that I'm concerned about. Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, all right, went from winning the championship to getting on a private jet to flying to winning the gold medal, and I'm just worried about their durability. I'm worried about those fresh legs. I'm worried about that because now that you done traded a guy like P.J. Tucker, guess what? It's more on your plate, more on Chris Middleton's plate defensively. Like, he's going to have to guard multiple positions now. It's no more, hey, if we face the Brooklyn Nets, P.J. Tucker is going to make it tough on KD. Chris Middleton is going to have to go check that. And I want to know is he going to have those legs and durability to be able to get it done on both sides of the floor? That's why I say it was very key when they lost P.J. Tucker. I was like, that right there bothered me. And I know
he's in Miami.
I know Bobby Portis. He is in Miami. And I know Bobby Portis, look, he's been balling. But P.J. Tucker just bring a different type of tenacity.
I agree. Defensively. And he's in Miami.
All right. We'll leave it there. Big Perk, you'll be back with us. Coming up next, Kimberly A. Martin joining Stephen A. I'm actually Molly A. too, in case you're wondering. Perk, we'll talk to you. Grambling State has hired ex-Baylor coach Art Briles as offensive coordinator. Briles was fired as Baylor's head coach in 2016 following the university's investigation into campus-wide allegations of sexual assault, including football players. Has now been hired by Grambling head coach Hugh Jackson. Briles is 66 and has been out of college coaching since May 2016. Grambling State alum and former coach Doug Williams does not co-sign Jackson and the school hiring the former Baylor coach as offensive coordinator due to his well-documented checkered past. Quote, I don't know Art Briles. I've never met him in my life, but the situation, nobody else would hire him for whatever reason. I don't know why Grambling State had to go be the one to hire him, so I am not a fan at all. Asked whether he would continue to support the program, Williams said, oh no, I can't do that. No. If I support them, I condone it. Kimberly A. Martin joining the conversation. Kimberly, good morning. Thank you so much for being with us. And I'll start with you here, Kim. What is your reaction to Doug Williams' quotes and the hiring of Art Briles?
Well, first off, Doug Williams is Grambling State. He is the face of that HBCU. For him and Shaq Harris to be against this speaks volumes. a personnel executive texted me yesterday and asked, do you think the backlash and even Doug Williams coming out will make Hugh Jackson change his mind? And the first thing I said was, what else did Hugh Jackson need? What other evidence, what really did he need before making this decision? Because if he was able to hire Art Briles, then own it. That's what I want to see. I want to see Hugh Jackson, a guy who has killed the Browns, killed the NFL for unfair treatment, not giving deserving people opportunities in the NFL, his own story saying that he deserves to be an NFL coach and how he's been mistreated and not given fair opportunities. He's the one who goes out, gets a job at an HBCU and hires Art Briles. And what has bothered me this whole time about Art Briles is the lack of what comes off as genuine contrition. This is a guy who allegedly covered up sexual assaults on campus, or says he did not know anything about it, but the response has always been, you report what you know. Apparently we didn't do enough. My apologies to anyone who suffered through all this. If you are genuinely contrite about what has taken place under your leadership, then the way he's acted, those two things don't jibe to me. And for this to be the guy that at this type of university, what Grambling State means, it bothers me to no end, especially from a guy like Hugh Jackson.
Molly, I want to hear from you before I chime in, because I know you have a lot to say about it, and I don't want to take up time. I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
There's a few things I want to say. To your Hugh Jackson point, Kimberly, and I don't want to convolute the issue and make it about race, but I do find it a bit baffling because I saw him in a sit-down interview on the 6 o'clock Sports Center I watch every night with Elle Duncan. It was an extensive interview, and it was so well done. And Hugh was frankly livid with the situation with Brian Flores and minorities not getting opportunities. And now Hugh Jackson is at an HBCU. That doesn't mean he's required to hire a black coach, but he did have an opportunity to hire a minority and instead went out and hired Art Briles with a very checkered past. I also want to say this. I take no pleasure, I guess, in how would I phrase this? I don't want to say banning somebody from a sport, but I guess that's how I would word it in this scenario. And this is what I mean. So if somebody asked me, do you think Art Briles should ever coach again, right? I believe in second chances, and I believe in not judging people by their worst decision. And you can put Kimberly on the screen, too, because I want to hear her reaction, and Stephen A. as well. But this isn't second chances. This is third chances, and this is fourth chances. So he oversaw this program, and he did not take it seriously enough when we're talking about multiple incidents of domestic violence and sexual abuse. That's his responsibility. So if I can't trust you to care about young women, why should I believe that you can lead young men? So no, I don't think he should ever coach in any capacity in college football because of that very reason. The other thing, someone could come to me and say, well, the NCAA ruled that he didn't do anything wrong. You know why he didn't do anything wrong? Because there's no rule that schools or coaches have to report domestic violence or sexual assault. And that is egregious as well, especially after what we saw with Penn State and Jerry Sandusky. How was that rule not instituted? So no, I don't think Art Briles should be working there. I'm baffled by the hiring by Hugh Jackson, and I think the NCAA needs to institute that rule because he's failed young women everywhere, and by failing young women, he's also failing young men, and he should be molding them and leading them. So no, I do believe in second chances. This is not second chances. This is third, fourth, and fifth. And if you don't believe me, you can go on ESPN.com. There's extensive reporting by Outside the Lines. They do an exceptional job. And there is a laundry list of incidents that I don't have time to get into. Stephen A.?
I appreciate where both of y'all are coming from. There is no disagreement from me as it pertains to y'all position on this because I share it. But I'm going to be far more direct. Hugh Jackson should be ashamed of his damn self. Not like Hugh Jackson, he's been a guest on this show. This is an egregious mistake on his part. He should be ashamed. Because he comes across as desperate. Now, Hugh Jackson, for those of you who don't know, had a winless season, had a career 11-44-1 record as a head coach in the National Football League, had a 1-31 record over a 2-year span, for crying out loud. And we all know, if you look at the numbers, when you look at Grambling State, offense wasn't their thing. As a matter of fact, their offense was offensive. It was just that bad before Hugh Jackson got hired in December. Okay, so we get all of that. And Art Briles, who had a 65-37 record at Baylor, and for the last 5 years, he had double-digit win seasons. 1 year, they averaged over 52 points a game, for crying out loud, at Baylor, and they were considered a juggernaut. Okay, we understand from a football perspective. But there's a reason I wore this jacket today. It's a jacket, historically black colleges and universities. And as a graduate of an HBCU, I understand that it's about being a leader of young black men. A black man in Hugh Jackson has been handed the reins at Grambling State. And Art Briles is who you bring in. Think about that for a second. Of all the candidates, black and white, out there that you potentially could have hired, you bring in a man that the NCAA didn't invoke a show cause penalty like they did against Kelvin Sampson. And that's a problem with the NCAA, which is why I'm glad you brought that up, Molly, because Kelvin Sampson, who's now the coach at Houston, okay, this is a man that once coached at Oklahoma, he once coached at Indiana, and ultimately he was essentially banned for 5 years from coaching in college because he made improper recruiting calls. But a man that has been synonymous with a sexual assault investigation that led to a few kids being indicted, at least 2 that I know of being found guilty, at least one of them sentenced to over 20 years in prison. The man that led that program is your hire at an HBCU. Now, I understand we can say it on any place, and I get all of that, but I'm representing HBCUs this morning. That's why I wore this jacket. Because evidently Hugh Jackson needs to be reminded of why he got the damn job. Hugh Jackson is considered to be a good man. He is considered to be a man who is well thought of, who thinks beyond just the game itself and results. It's bigger than just wins and losses with Hugh Jackson. That's what he told us. That's the reputation that he's given to people. And this is the hire that you make. It is inexcusable. It is disappointing. And I'm trying to figure out how you can go and recruit on behalf of Grambling State. And that is your offensive coordinator that you bring into the rooms or to the homes of kids and their parents in an effort to recruit these players. And you say, this is the guy that we want. This is the guy that we want your son to play under. I'm about second chances. I'm not about cutting the cord and saying it's over. As far as I'm concerned, if you're not in prison, then you work in this society, you got to pay taxes, you got to contribute in some kind of civilized way. All right, we get all of that. But damn, Hugh Jackson? I mean,
but this isn't second chances for Art Briles.
I understand that. I understand
so that's why.
But numerous universities led by white presidents and chancellors and stuff turned him down. But Hugh Jackson brings him on board. Well, damn. All I got to say to Hugh is, to me, it's not even about Art Briles is Art Briles, but I'm looking at Hugh Jackson, and all I got to say is, damn, bro.
But I don't want to, Kimberly, I want to get you back in here, and I don't want to gloss over the women as well. And
I'm not
No. And I want to get back to a point that you made, Kimberly, because I felt like it's so pertinent, is the fact that even if Art Briles had really shown remorse and said, I spent some time at a shelter for domestic violence. I sat down with victims. And that's another part, how callous he was. And then also to receive this type of opportunity when there's so many men that are much more deserving. But I want to give you the final word here.
Yeah, it really just speaks to, that Art Briles wants to be a coach and he needs other people to believe that he has learned something. I don't think anything since he last was a coach has demonstrated that he gets it. And he's on a college, he's part of a college staff. And that's why, to me, Molly, your point about him coaching in college is so important, because you are supposed to be a leader. You are supposed to go in people's homes. You are supposed to give parents the sense that, yes, you can entrust your child with me. We are good. We will take care of your kid like he or she is your own, right? Is our own. And I don't see how Art Briles can be that person. And especially, and I go back to the HBCU part, because Grambling, for Doug Williams, the face of Grambling, to say, I cannot condone this. And for the head coach who brought him in to be Hugh Jackson, a guy that literally has talked about how second chances and how he hasn't gotten what he deserves, to be that guy to give this man another chance, it is mind-boggling to me. And I want to hear from Hugh. I want him to own all of it.
Well, I received a couple of text messages within the last few minutes. Okay. I don't know definitively who it's from, but it's clearly in support of Hugh Jackson.
Okay.
It talks about how he has, he has a foundation, that fights against human trafficking and all the good things that Hugh Jackson has done. Let me look into the camera when I say this, please. Hugh Jackson has always been considered to be a good man by most of us. Yeah. This is not an attack against the character of Hugh Jackson. This is an attack against the decision Hugh Jackson made to hire Art Briles. So whoever sent me these text messages, how they got my number, I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Whoever sent me these text messages, let me be very, very clear. This is about the hiring of Art Briles. This is not about Hugh Jackson as a person. This is not about Hugh Jackson as a coach. This is not about Hugh Jackson as a human being. This is not bringing into question anything he said about Haslam with the Browns or anybody else. This is specifically regarding Art Briles. And yes, I will call Hugh Jackson, because guess what? I find this decision to be egregious. Period. It is a better decision you could have made for offensive coordinator for Grambling State than this one. Doug Williams says it. Most people in the media, Keyshawn was talking about it this morning. Most people are going to say that. That's how we feel. This is about the hire. Let's not conflate things. Let's not confuse the issues. Let's not try to be evasive. You hired a man that oversaw a program rife with sexual assault perpetrators. The law has stated that. We've got people who are in prison because of it. As a result, nobody touched this man for 6 years for a reason. And if he's going to land someplace, it shouldn't be at an historically black college and universities when you had a lot of the players at Baylor, if not all of them, who were being accused of it, who happened to be black. Clearly, him being a leader of young black men is highly questionable. That's who you hired, Hugh Jackson. There's no way around that. So whether it's you or somebody else that are texting me with your stuff, I will happily call you. Hell, if you want me to, I'll fly down and visit you and say it to your damn face. It's a ridiculous hire. Yeah. That's the issue.
And Stephen A., let me just say this. If he does have a foundation eradicating human trafficking, which is a very serious
props
issue
to him.
And very important to me, yes, absolutely, I applaud him. But where's our Briles Foundation? That's what I want to know. Where's Art Briles working on this issue? So again, I just want to say this. If you don't care about young women, why do you have the opportunity to lead young men? We will leave it there.
This was an egregious hire, plain and simple. Don't let them try to confuse the issue. This ain't about Hugh Jackson's character as a man. This is about your decision to hire this man. And you are going to be attached to making this decision for a very long time because of how the world feels about what Art Briles, at the very least, seemed oblivious to or turned a blind eye and a deaf ear to in a lot of people's minds. That is a fact. Yep. Get over it and deal with that reality.
Okay. We have to leave it there. We're up against it. But Kimberly, I just so value your voice on this subject, on everything.
Thank you, Kim.
But this as well. Thank you so much. All right. More First Take after this very quick break. Addition, you know Steph Curry's ready when he walks the concrete runway in this
Michael Jackson.
commitment. Okay, Big Perk, Stephen A., what do you think?
Michael Jackson.
How do you feel about it?
That's what I'm trying to tell you. Steph Curry, I didn't know he was going to moonwalk next. That's what he should have pulled out last night in Portland before they blew him out. That's what he should have pulled out. He should have done the moonwalk in that jacket. I mean, he did everything else to Portland last night.
You like it, Perk?
I think Stephen A. I think Stephen A. could pull it off.
No.
You know, I think
no.
I could. I think I
No.
could too. I think I could too. You know what? You know what? I might rock it. I might
hold
do
on.
that.
Time out.
I might do that.
Can we show that video one more time? First of all, Steph can pull off anything because Steph's that dude. And he's got the trench, the whole thing. You can't really see the shoes, but he had some chunky boots on. I was into it. But did you see, it almost looked like some thigh-high boots. How
Yeah,
he had
that wasn't work.
Would you're telling me you would wear that? Get out of here.
I wouldn't wear the boots, but would I wear that jacket into an arena, that like trench coat?
Patent leather trench.
I would
You
pull
wear
it
that?
off. I would pull it. Now let's be clear. Steph Curry looks 50 times better than me. You understand? Let's be very clear about that.
Yeah.
I wish I looked as good as that brother. You know, there would be hope for me. But the point that I'm trying to make
You're
is
doing
that
fine.
could I rock that coat? Yes. I could rock it. I could rock it.
Wearing it and pulling it off are two different things.
Hold on. I pull it off. I pull off anything that I roll with. It's just like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm just not that good looking. I mean, that's male model category right there. You know what I'm saying? I told you he should have started moonwalking. He did everything else to Portland last night. By the way, the
Curry
Portland
family, they got it
Trailblazers,
working.
I know they got blown out and all of that stuff. This
Yeah.
kid, Anthony Simons, is special. And they got some young talent on that squad. I like the future of the Portland Trailblazers. I really do. I like those kids.
Yeah. Perk, you have any final thoughts on the Matrix look, or should we go on the court?
It
now?
is the Matrix right now, you know.
Nah. I mean, it's something I wouldn't wear. But you know what? Shout out to Adam Silver. You know why? Because, Molly, you see, ever since Adam Silver stepped into office, he allowed players to be themselves. You know what I mean? Now guys get to show up in their swag and dripping and whatever they want to call it. Go ahead, do them. Shout out to Adam Silver, best commissioner in sports.
Cosign.
That's true.
All right, let's keep it going, guys. The Nets, that's where I want to go
I mean,
now.
a slam dunk tried to tarnish his reputation, but it didn't work. Adam Silver's still great.
But you're fixing it. The Nets were blown out on their home floor by the Celtics. Keep in mind, Brooklyn, without their new big three, that'd be Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons. The newly acquired Steph Curry was on the floor. Speaking of the Currys, putting up 22 and 7. Curry certainly knows Ben Simmons. His teammate, obviously in Philly, now traded along with him to Brooklyn. There's Curry on Simmons. I've said from day one. Even when he was out early in the season, people were asking me if I feel like if Ben comes back, should he apologize to us or whatever? I understand the business. He doesn't need to apologize to anybody. When he's on the court, I know he's going to do his job and he's going to do what he does. So I understand the business. He was doing what he felt was best for him business-wise and personal-wise. And the team's going to do the same thing as far as making trades or whatever. So I understand it. I've been around it, and I don't take anything personal. I like that. That's one of the 4 agreements, not taking anything personal. You probably haven't read it, but it's a good read. Stephen A., what do you make of Curry saying that Simmons doesn't need to apologize?
Nothing. That's his teammate in Brooklyn. What's he going to say? I know it was his teammate in Philadelphia, but he got traded with him to Brooklyn. What you going to do? He needed to apologize to us? I wish he had apologized. I mean, damn, I don't like the guy, you know, and then go play with him in Brooklyn? Really? You going to bring that problem to Brooklyn? So, I mean, come on now. We understand that he has to say that. And at the end of the day, we got to respect where Curry is coming from. I wish Ben Simmons nothing but the best. Let me be clear. I want to see this brother on the basketball court because he's a special talent. Even though he can't shoot worth a damn, I want to see him do everything else that he does so exceptionally well, okay? But in the same breath, if you are a player and he was your teammate and he was of the mindset that, you know, or you were of the mindset that these mental health issues were really about the fact that he didn't want to play here in Philadelphia. Well, what you're going to do as a player for the Philadelphia 76ers is say, okay, you don't want to be here. What's most important? You getting out of town and sitting down and not playing, or going to, figuratively speaking, I was going to say going to war, but during these times right now, what was happening with the Ukraine and Russia and all that stuff, we certainly don't want to use the word war. What I would say is that, are you going to come and fight alongside us to try to win a championship while you're still here? As a player, make no mistake about it, there are some members on the Philadelphia 76ers that judge him that way. They ain't going to say so publicly because the issue of mental health is such an extremely important issue and so highly sensitive that nobody wants to dismiss those who say they have mental health issues. But there are a lot of people who did not believe Ben Simmons. They believed that he simply didn't want to play in Philadelphia, and the second that he got out of Philadelphia, he was going to be well off and good enough to play. And because of that, people who are still in Philadelphia, I can assure you, the fan base in Philadelphia will forever resent him for that.
Big Perk, before you jump in here, let me just say one real quick thing to Stephen A. By the way, I'm looking at the quote again, but he said business-wise multiple times. He did what he had to do for himself business-wise, taking care of business and personal as well. So he wasn't just focused on the mental health piece. Perk?
Right. And here's the thing. I don't feel like Ben Simmons owes anybody an apology, but I do feel like he owes Steph Curry, Andre Drummond, guys that were traded with him, a conversation. As a man, they deserve, we got to quit letting Ben Simmons off the hook. Not as a basketball player, but as a man. Oh, Ben Simmons, he can't address the media today. Oh, Ben Simmons, he don't want to talk to nobody. Oh, Ben Simmons, no, we're going to let him just do him. We're going to let it just No, that's not how it works. Not as a man. Like, at least have a conversation with somebody. I'm not saying he has to go apologize for what he done and how he, wanted out of Philly or whatever the case may be. But, I mean, as a man, you at least deserve to have a conversation with two guys that were involved with you with a trade that had to relocate, had to move their families. As a man, you got to go have it. And I feel like we give Ben Simmons too many passes time and time again for as him not stepping up to the plate and saying something.
Well, that's really what it comes down to. I mean, like I said, it's important to point out, this is the reason why I keep regurgitating the same comment. There's a lot of people who don't believe him. The reason I say that is because I want to make sure everybody understands that there are people, those same people, if they truly, truly believed that it was a mental health issue, like Ben Simmons said, they wouldn't feel that way. They feel that way because they don't believe him. They feel that way because they believe he simply wanted to get out of Philadelphia because of Joel Embiid, because of Doc Rivers' statement about him after the playoffs ended. They point to those things and say, yo, man, that's weak because that's basketball. That comes with the job. You know that. And for all intent and purposes, it could exist anywhere that you are. That's what they're saying. And so my point is, and my response to that is, okay, Seth Curry and those cats, you got to roll with him now. Because Ben Simmons is an elite player, regardless of the fact that he doesn't shoot the ball from the perimeter. He is an elite player. That same playoff game against Atlanta, that he only shot the ball 4 times and only scored 5 points and was scared to shoot the rock even near the basket. That same game, he had 13 assists. He had 13 assists. This is who Ben Simmons can be any night he wants to be. And so he brings a level of elite play to the Brooklyn Nets that's going to contribute to them being every bit as formidable as we think they are going to be, and that is that. But in the end, you got cats. Seth Curry is his teammate. There are cats who are no longer his teammate. Speak to them off camera. Speak to them without a hot microphone. Yeah. And they will go the hell off because they feel betrayed and abandoned by him. I don't expect his teammate to admit something like that. But you best believe those who are no longer his teammate feel that way, and I can assure you the city of Philadelphia feels that way.
Y'all heard what Danny Green said yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Did y'all hear Danny Green comments? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, they feel some type of way, and they should.
Yeah. We'll leave it there. Big Perk will be back. All I got to say, though, I can't wait for him to be back on the court and to see this big three finally in action. Still ahead, Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns season certainly didn't live up to the hype. All that talent on paper, but ended up finishing below 500. Mayfield obviously battling injuries all season. They didn't make the playoffs. And then he watched Odell Beckham Jr. win a Super Bowl. Here's RG3 with some strong comments on Baker.
I think Baker's on the table and win a Super Bowl. Anything short of that, he's not going to get the public to buy in on him, and he's definitely not going to get the people in the front office to buy into him being the quarterback past 2022. But we got to realize Baker is also a guy that always performs his best when his back is against the wall and no one believes in him. But if he doesn't run the table and win a Super Bowl,
Really strong point there by RG3. Look who it is, the piano man, two-time Super Bowl champion, Damian Woody, gracing your screen. It's been too long. How is the entire Woody family doing?
Oh, everybody's good. But Molly, let me address this real quick. First of all, Stephen A., that jacket is cold-blooded, my brother. I got to give you, I don't like giving you too many props, because I know how you act. But I got to give you props on that jacket. That jacket is cold-blooded. After the show or something, I'm going to need to get the hookup on that one.
Well, thank you, my brother. Thank you so much. And it's about HBCUs, and forgive me for turning left for a second. Your thoughts about Hugh Jackson hiring Art Briles real quick.
I think it's a huge stain on not only Grambling, but I'm going to just say Grambling. I'm not going to say all HBCUs, but this is not a good look for Grambling and Hugh Jackson to bring in Art Briles with the huge amount of baggage that he has carrying from his days at Baylor. And anyone can go and look and research what Art Briles went through at Baylor. I am so disappointed in Hugh Jackson in making this hire for Grambling University.
All right. Now we can move on.
Okay.
Baker Mayfield, go ahead.
No, so Damian, here's the question. Do you feel like, I thought RG3 made some strong points there, that Baker is the quarterback that's under the most pressure this upcoming season, especially after he watched Odell leave and win that Super Bowl?
Listen, I agree. I think Baker Mayfield is under the most pressure. I wouldn't go as far as what RG3 said, as far as he has to go win a Super Bowl. But, listen, you're talking about a guy, Stephen A., that is entering the fifth year of his deal. A guy that's coming off an injury-riddled season, didn't live up to expectations with the Cleveland Browns this year. Now, it wasn't just Baker Mayfield. They had injuries all across the board. 2021 was just not acceptable for the type of team that GM Andrew Berry put out there on the field. I think most people can honestly say, looking at the Cleveland Browns roster, on paper, this roster was one of the best rosters in the National Football League. They just didn't have the quarterback to really get this team over the hump. Now, compare that to 2020, Stephen A. That's why I'm saying when you look at Baker Mayfield in 2020, this dude had a career year.
When you consider the weapons that you had available to you, okay, an Amari Cooper, all right, a CeeDee Lamb, a Schultz from your tight end spot, a Wilson coming in off the bench as a reserve at the wide receiver spot, and Ezekiel Elliott and a Tony Pollard in the backfield, an offensive line that ain't too damn shabby, and a defense that actually did not play awful. They kept you in the game for the most part. I'm looking at Dak Prescott, and I'm like, wait a minute now. Who's under more pressure? You got some people that sit up there and say, man, they should trade Dak Prescott. I didn't say that. But you got people that look at the Aaron Rodgers of the world and others, and they're like, what if the Dallas Cowboys could get somebody like that? What if they could sit up there and get their hands on Deshaun Watson? Not that the Texans would ever move him to Dallas, okay? But what if something like that could happen? You got people that's looking at Dak, who we all respect and believe has big-time moments and can be a big-time player. We believe in Dak Prescott. The bottom line is that comes with pressure. I understand that Baker Mayfield has got some pressure on him, but you know what? He's about Lake Erie. He ain't got the star on his helmet. He don't play in a $1 billion playpen. He ain't on national television about 12, 13 times a year. Ain't Baker Mayfield we talking about. He ain't the guy with the billionaire owner, you understand, that's doing press conferences after every game. He ain't that dude. That's Dak Prescott. That's Dak Prescott. And so for me, that's where I'm going. And listen, I'm joking all the time about the Dallas Cowboys because I troll their fans. I got nothing against the Dallas Cowboy players, and I love me some Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones. I'm cool with all of them. Met the wife, the whole bit. I ain't been on a yacht yet, but that's a different story for another day. My point is, all of that stuff, I'm cool with the Cowboys. It's their fan base that I troll because I can't stand those disgusting, nauseating Cowboy fans everywhere. They make me sick. That's my issue. But as far as the players go, I'm cool, and I endorse Dak Prescott getting his money and stuff like that. But you got to show up, bro. You got to show up and get it done. And the fact of the matter is, he's under far more pressure to me than Baker Mayfield because of who he represents and how he's come up short.
The fact that Dak Prescott got his money already, okay? The fact that he got his money, Baker Mayfield hasn't been paid yet. Mm-hmm. And so if you're the Cleveland Browns, you got to make a decision. Are you going to invest 40 plus million in a quarterback? Because regardless of what you think of Baker Mayfield, if Baker Mayfield goes out there and balls, he's going to command about 40 plus million dollars because that's the going rate. Similar to kind of the conversations that we had about Kirk Cousins and everybody throwing the hissy fit about the contract Kirk Cousins got, but that's just the market rate for quarterbacks nowadays. So for me, not only do I combine the fact of the Cleveland Browns and the roster that they have and how they underachieved last year, but the fact that Baker Mayfield is playing for that next big contract and the Cleveland Browns got to decide, hey, is this guy going to be our guy for the next 5 to 10 years moving forward? And that's why I tend to point to Baker Mayfield rather than Dak Prescott as the quarterback, the player with the most pressure underneath them.
Yeah, absolutely. You know who's under no pressure? That would be you, Damian Woody. I mean, the house, just all the light, the high ceilings, it's so beautiful. Every time you do this live shot, I find something else that I like.
Can I turn the conversation back?
Are you going to go serious after I just talked about the windows?
Yes, well, go ahead, Dame.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dame. Respond.
No, I'm just, Marley, I appreciate, the kind words and everything.
It's beautiful.
And what I was going to say is one of these hits, man, I'm going to literally get up out of my chair and I'm going to go to the piano and go play something just to kind of show off the skills and stuff like that.
Please.
Yeah.
I want you to.
It's coming, Molly. It's coming, Molly. Don't worry about it.
Renaissance man.
Hold on.
Show him your range.
Damian Liberace. Good Lord have mercy. What is this world coming to?
Okay, be more serious now.
I want to transition to a serious subject back. Damian Woody, I had a friend of mine who's an attorney that sent me this text message. He just said in regards to Hugh Jackson and the hiring of Art Browse at Grambling State, he said, I appreciate everything y'all have mentioned and everything y'all have said because y'all are right on the money, but you did fail to mention one very important thing and how disrespectful this hire is to Coach Eddie Robinson's legacy. In building men, all right? This is what you're talking about. The late, great Eddie Robinson. The games that he won and all of that stuff. I played for Big House games. I tried to play for Big House games and stuff like that. The number one responsibility they held as coaches at HBCUs was striving to build young men. I don't think that Hugh Jackson and Grambling State truly gets how this looks for them. Some people, there's a lot of people that feel that Art Browse deserves another chance, at least to be a coach on the level, maybe not a head coach. There's a lot of people that feel.
I said not in college.
That's right.
Because of leading young men.
My whole point is, you are Hugh Jackson at an HBCU, and you know what happened, and you know that program and the sexual assault allegations involved young black men, and that is the coach that you would hire. Now they'll say we've spoken to lawyers, we've vetted this man extensively. We've spoken to lawyers. We've spoken to administrators. We've spoken to everybody. Y'all didn't do the homework. We did the homework. Blah, 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 blah.
Colossal failure. The president said it was a colossal failure in handling the sexual assault and violence.
The president of the university resigned. The athletic director resigned. Art Browse lost his job. Once upon a time, Jerry Jones thought about bringing him on board. That didn't happen. I think it was Southern Mississippi or some other institutions, several others actually, thought about bringing him on board. And the university chancellors, presidents stepped in and stopped it. And somehow, Hugh Jackson makes this call. Good luck.
I got to say one more thing. And Baylor was put on a 4-year probation. Like, for nothing? Get out of here. Damian, so good to see you. Thank you again for your perspective on all things. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We'll talk to you soon. So to come another excellent job by Malika Andrews, as always. Big Perk, I know you'll be with her later on NBA Today. So, guys, Giannis, the reigning champ, but he's hungry for more. Perk, what would another title mean for his legacy?
It would mean everything. When you look at Giannis Antetokounmpo right now, in his short stint, his resume is longer than the Starbucks line, okay? When you talk about all his individual accolades and you talk about all the things that he has accomplished, right now today, he's a top 10 power forward of all time. If Giannis Antetokounmpo was to win a championship and another finals MVP, let me repeat, if he was to win another championship and another finals MVP this season, with how stacked the Eastern Conference is, he would jump Karl Malone, Dirk Nowitzki, Charles Barkley, Kevin Garnett, and he will become the number 2 greatest power forward of all time. When you look at Giannis and you talk about his accolades, you look at it, NBA champion, check. Finals MVP, check. 2-time MVP, check. Defensive Player of the Year, check. All-Star MVP, check. It's nothing that this man haven't accomplished. Nothing. So if he was to win a championship this year and make it out of the Eastern Conference and go on to win another one with a Finals MVP, I'm going to put Giannis as the number 2 greatest power forward right under Tim Duncan of all time.
I'm trying to figure out why we did this segment because I don't disagree with a damn thing Kendrick Perkins just said. I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you. I can't. I wish I could because I've thought about it. Karl Malone, phenomenal. No rings. I could put Kevin McHale in there, but Kevin McHale couldn't do all the things that Giannis Antetokounmpo can do. Kevin Garnett, that's the closest to it. I mean, when you look at Tim Duncan, I mean, obviously more rings, so we ain't putting him above Tim Duncan, 5-time champion. We get all of that. But Barkley was tremendous. But Dirk's got 1 ring. Dirk couldn't move like this dude that like Giannis can move. You know, Kendrick, I don't mean anything insulting at all because you were a big boy and this wasn't an expectation of your repertoire. But damn it, Dirk was slower than you. I mean, it's just the truth. It's just the truth, Kendrick Perkins. So I'm just saying. I mean, it's just the truth. So all I'm saying is like, I mean, Dirk couldn't move like that, and so I'm looking at Giannis. He win this chip. There's nobody to talk about on his level other than Tim Duncan from the power forward spot. Now I will say this though, I'm one of those guys who believe, like. For me personally, when you think prototypical power forward, I'm not talking about Karl Malone stepping away from the basket, shooting the elbow jump shot, or finishing on a break. I know that's a different dimension, and that has to get included, which is why Karl Malone is the mailman. He delivered. The flip side to it, KP, however, is this. I have always, just for your edification, so you know, I have always been one who looked at Kevin McHale back to the basket, 10 feet and in, as the most unstoppable power forward in the history of basketball outside of Tim Duncan. I've always viewed Karl Malone never had that back to the basket game. Giannis doesn't have that back to the basket game. He can do everything else. And that's why you got to put him number 2, particularly if he wins the title. All right, number 2 to Tim Duncan from the power forward spot. But I want to be clear. Back to the basket, which is what the power forward position used to be. You know, before the likes of Kevin Love, Chris Bosh, and KG and others came along. Okay, KG obviously before them. Back to the basket, there's a reason why we saw Kevin McHale. You see him on television talking basketball. Wherever you go, for anybody that knows the history of basketball, you look at Kevin McHale with his back to the basket. Ask the great Hubie Brown, who's forgotten more basketball than almost any of us will ever know. Okay? Kevin McHale, to me, at the power forward spot was the greatest back to the basket power forward in the history of basketball outside of Tim Duncan.
And you talk, well, you know, when you go to that point, Stephen, you talking about his skill set.
Yes.
Like he was hitting you with the up and unders,
yes.
the
Up and unders
slippery
are
eels is
special.
what they was calling it. All those names that they had for it was just different. And look, when you think about Kevin McHale and then you go and watch Kevin Garnett, you know why Kevin Garnett added so much to his back to the basket.
That's right.
Because he was right there in Minnesota learning from Kevin McHale.
From Kevin McHale.
But
That's right.
But listen, I just man, when you talk about Giannis though, and you talk about just pure dominance and what he has done, I had to go back and just revisit his resume. And I had to go look. And you know the crazy thing about the whole situation is that we have at least 5 years of this. If he stays healthy, we have at least 5 years of Giannis giving us close to 30 points and 14 rebounds a night. And 6 assists because he's grown in that aspect, let alone what he brings on the defensive side of things. So he still is going to improve in stacking up in areas for his points and rebounds and things to that nature, block shots and all that for his individual accolades. But my God, I had to go back and double check. And if he was to make it now, Molly, right now, out of the East, the way the East is built, and go on to win the championship, look, nobody could knock it. You got to put him number 2.
For sure. Okay. He already came in on 18 on ESPN's top 75 list as 18th best player of all time. When we come back here, guys, no